Right in the middle of my vacation, my son texted me, "We know this is your beach house, but we want some alone time with my wife's parents, so please move to a hotel." I replied, "Understood." And then I made my final move. What happened an hour later made my in-laws beg my son to divorce their daughter. Dear listeners, before we begin this difficult story, I want to ask you a favor. If my story resonates with your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel and write in the comments which city or state you are listening from. It warms my spirit to know how far my voice travels. Happy listening. The midday sun in the low country doesn't just warm you, it melts you. It burns away everything superfluous, leaving only the essence, scorching stone, the scent of dry Spanish moss, and the deafening ring of cicadas that makes your temples throb by evening. But here, on the terrace of Indigo Point, the heat felt different. The air was heavy, not from the humidity, but from the icy silence that hung over the dining table. I stood at the kitchen island with my back to my guests, slicing a juicy, sugar-sweet watermelon. The knife slid into the flesh with a soft crunch. This was my kitchen. I had drafted this blueprint myself 20 years ago. I knew why the window faced exactly southwest, to catch the sunset rays without letting in the brutal midday heat. I remembered choosing these Italian tiles the color of baked milk, arguing with the contractor about the height of the countertops. Every inch of this house was an extension of me, my will, my labor. But today I felt like a ghost here, a disembodied spirit whose only task was to serve, clean, and disappear. At the large table on the terrace, under the shade of a pergola draped in wisteria, sat the new masters of the moment. My son Mark had his face buried in his plate, diligently avoiding my gaze. His shoulders were slumped. In that posture, I saw the little boy who used to hide behind my skirt after breaking a neighbor's window. Only now he wasn't hiding behind me. He was hiding from me. Opposite him sat Gerald and Patricia Vance, my daughter-in-law's parents. They were eating the red snapper I had prepared with expressions that suggested they were doing the fish a favor by allowing it to be eaten. Patricia, a heavy-set woman dripping in massive gold jewelry that looked ridiculous against the backdrop of a casual beach lunch, dabbed her lips with a napkin and pushed her plate away with disdain. "The fish is a little dry," she announced loudly, addressing no one in particular. "Remember that restaurant in Savannah, Gerald? The snapper was much more tender there." Grunted Gerald, not looking up from his phone. Service was different there, too. But the loudest voice belonged to Bianca. My daughter-in-law sat at the head of the table, my table, pouring ice-cold wine into glasses. She wore a light white dress that accentuated her deep, glowing skin perfectly, but did nothing to hide the predatory gleam in her eyes. She surveyed the terrace like a general inspecting conquered territory. "Mom, Dad, you have no idea what plans we have," she chirped. Her voice grated on my ears like metal on glass. "Mark and I decided, this wall here is completely unnecessary. We're going to tear it down, put in floor-to-ceiling glass, panoramic views. And this garden," she waved her wine glass carelessly toward my rose bushes, which I had nurtured for years, selecting varieties resistant to the salt air. "Too old-fashioned. All these bushes and flower beds. We need minimalism. Concrete, glass, manicured lawn. Right, Mark?" Mark flinched and nodded hurriedly, stuffing a piece of bread into his mouth. "Yeah, babe. Whatever you say." I froze with the platter of watermelon. Inside, somewhere near my solar plexus, a cold lump formed. They were discussing the destruction of my labor as if I weren't there, as if I were part of the decor, an outdated piece of furniture soon to be hauled to the dump. "Chloe!" Bianca's voice cracked like a whip. "We're out of wine. Bring another bottle from the fridge. And more ice. This ice is melted." She didn't even turn her head. She just snapped her fingers in the air. The Vances exchanged glances with a slight, barely noticeable smirk. In their world, there were only two types of people, those who are served and those who serve. To them, I, the owner of a villa worth a fortune, was just a squatter, a poor relative allowed to stay out of charity in exchange for kitchen duties. I exhaled slowly, counting to 3. Anger is a bad advisor. Anger is an emotion, and emotions destroy structure. As an architect, I knew that if a foundation cracks, you can't just plaster over it. But right now, I had to save face for the sake of my son, for the sake of the fragile peace I thought I was obligated to maintain. I'll bring it right out, I said quietly. My voice was steady, no tremor. I placed the watermelon on the table, took the empty bottle, and retreated into the cool of the house. There, in the silence of the hallway, I leaned my forehead against the cool wall. My heart was pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. Endure it, Chloe, I told myself. They're leaving in a week. You survived construction in the 90s. You survived divorce. You survived economic recessions. You can survive this rudeness. Returning with the wine, I caught Patricia's gaze on me. It wasn't sympathetic. No, it held a patronizing curiosity, the kind one uses to look at a strange insect. So Chloe, she drawled, you do everything yourself? All by yourself? We have help for that back home. Mark says you just have nothing to do in retirement, so you fuss around. I didn't answer. I just poured their wine, feeling an invisible string inside me pulling tighter, stretching to the limit beyond which lies the snap. I need to go to the market, I said suddenly. The words came out on their own. I needed to leave, to break out of the circle of humiliation, to breathe air not saturated with the poison of arrogance. We're out of fresh figs. Do you like figs with your cheese? Oh, go ahead, Bianca tossed out carelessly, already turning back to her parents. And pick up some of those large olives. Just don't get the cheap ones like last time. I grabbed my bag and walked out the gate without even changing. The sun hit my eyes, but I needed it. I walked down the winding street toward the ocean, past live oaks draped in moss, standing like sentinels. The sound of the surf grew louder, drowning out the voices in my head. Here, among ordinary people, among the smells of fried shrimp, spices, and the sea, I usually felt alive. The market was buzzing. Vendors called out to customers. It smelled of dill and smoked mullet. I stopped at a stall with a familiar vendor to pick out figs, dark, purple, with skins cracking from ripeness. I was choosing the best fruit, out of habit, caring for those I left back at the villa. And then, in the pocket of my linen sundress, my phone vibrated. I pulled it out, squinting against the sun. A message from Mark. My heart skipped a beat. Maybe he felt ashamed. Maybe he wanted to apologize for his wife's behavior. I opened the chat. The letters danced before my eyes. But the meaning hit me instantly, like a punch to the gut. Mom, we know this is your beach house, but Bianca's parents feel uncomfortable. We want to be alone with them. Discuss the family business. Please move to a hotel until the end of the week. We'll pay for the room. I froze in the middle of the market square. People flowed around me. Someone bumped my shoulder, muttering an apology, but I didn't hear them. The world had gone on mute. Your beach house. That's what he called my home, my sanctuary. I'm comfortable in my own house. Move to a hotel. I reread the message. And again, the tears that had been rising to my throat for the last 2 hours suddenly vanished, evaporated like a drop of water on a hot iron. Instead of resentment, instead of the bitterness of an abandoned mother, something else arrived. A cold, crystal-clear understanding. I saw the structure of their lies. I saw the rod and the load-bearing pillars of our relationship. 4 years, I had closed my eyes to the cracks, patched them with my love, my money, my patience. But now, the building had collapsed, and I had no intention of standing in the ruins. They want to be alone. They want to discuss family business in my house after kicking me out the door. Well, then, I didn't call and scream. I didn't write long tirades about conscience and gratitude. I felt like a surgeon picking up a scalpel to cut out gangrene. I typed one word, understood, and pressed send. Then I closed the chat with my son. I didn't open a hotel booking app. I opened my contacts list and scrolled down to a name I hadn't dialed in 3 years, but kept just in case. Desmond. Luxury real estate. The ringtone started immediately. I stood in the middle of the market, clutching a bag of figs in one hand, fruit they were destined never to taste, and in the other, the phone that had become my detonator. Hello, Miss Chloe. The voice on the line was surprised. To what do I owe the pleasure? Haven't heard from you in ages. Hello, Desmond, I said. My voice was as hard as the granite foundation of my house. Are you still looking for buyers for prime waterfront property? Always, Chloe. Always. Why? Is one of the neighbors selling? No, I answered, looking at the sparkling sea in the distance. I am selling Indigo Point. You're joking. Indigo Point. And I need a buyer today. Right now. I threw the bag of figs into the nearest trash can. The sweet fruits hit the bottom with a dull thud, and that sound became the period at the end of my past life. I turned and walked away from the market, not toward home, but toward the waterfront, where behind glass walls Desmond sat in his office. The realtor's office greeted me with the chill of air conditioning and the smell of expensive coffee. Desmond, a heavy-set man with a sly squint and a graying goatee, jumped up from his desk as soon as I crossed the threshold. He had known me a long time. He remembered how I fought the zoning board for every foot of land for Indigo Point. "Chloe," he said, sweeping his gaze over me. My simple sundress clashed with the determination in my eyes. "Are you serious? The point. Your baby." I sat in the chair opposite him. "I need an urgent showing, Desmond. Not just a showing. I need a deal today." Desmond slowly sank back into his chair. Today is a flexible concept in real estate. You know the market, documents, inspections, negotiations. My documents are in order. The title is clean. No liens. I am the sole owner. I don't need negotiations. I need a person with cash who wants this house right now. Someone ready to pay for immediate possession. Desmond studied my face. He was looking for traces of hysteria, but saw only cold calculation. "Did something happen?" "A new life has begun," I replied, "and there is no room in it for old walls." "Do you have such a client?" Desmond chewed his lip, then reached for his keyboard. "There is one. Titan Banks, a developer from Atlanta. Crazy money, temper like a powder keg. He's been eyeing your lot for a long time. He's in town right now looking for something turnkey. Call him." I cut him off. "Tell him the owner is ready to show the house in an hour. And warn him the condition of sale is immediate vacating of the premises by the temporary tenants." Desmond raised his eyebrows but didn't ask questions. He dialed, put it on speaker. A coarse, rumbling laugh came from the speaker. "If it's everything you described, I'll take it sight unseen. We're rolling out." 40 minutes later, I stood at my own gate, but I was not the same woman who had left. I had stopped at a boutique. A silk scarf, emerald green with gold thread, was tied around my neck. Oversized tortoise-shell sunglasses hid my eyes. I felt like the architect I once was, facing a hostile review board. A massive black SUV pulled up. Titan Banks was a mountain of a man in a sand-colored linen suit. He sized me up. "Desmond told me you were a sweet little old lady. I see a boss. I like it. Time is money, Mr. Banks," I replied, opening the gate. From the terrace came the clinking of glasses and Bianca's loud laughter. They were celebrating. I turned to the men. "I have one condition. There are unauthorized persons in the house. They believe they have a right to be here. I need you to play along. You are the new owner who tolerates no objections." Titus spread into a wide, predatory grin. "Kicking out squatters? I love that even more than buying houses. Lead the way." We moved down the walkway. I threw open the terrace doors. The festive hum died instantly. Mark froze, glass raised. Bianca slowly slid off her husband's lap. The Van Cess stared. "Mom," Mark recovered. "We had an agreement." Bianca jumped up, pasting on a sugary smile. "Chloe, you must have forgotten something. We wired you money for the hotel." She reached for her purse, to shove bills into my hand. I ignored her, walking past as if she were empty space. "Mr. Banks," I said loud and clear. "Come in. Don't be shy." Titus stepped forward, brushing Bianca aside. He surveyed the living room. "Not bad. High ceilings. Lots of air. Who are you?" Bianca shrieked. "How dare you barge in? Sterling, call the police." Gerald Vance stood, face flushed. "This is private property. Get out." I turned to Titus. "As you can see, excellent natural light. The kitchen flows into the relaxation zone." Titus knocked on the wall. "Solid, not drywall. And the view." He looked at me. "Show me the balcony view." We walked straight through the group. Bianca grabbed my elbow, nails digging in. "What are you doing? Do you want to ruin everything?" I looked at her hand, then her face. "Get your hands off me. And don't interrupt the showing." "What showing?" Patricia whispered, blinking. I turned to Titus. "How do you like the house?" "I'll take it," he boomed. "Location is prime. House is solid. Money transfers now if the keys are on the table in an hour. Silence, thick enough to cut. What do you mean? Take it. Bianca's face turned gray. It means, dear daughter-in-law, I enunciated, that this house is sold, and the current residents are temporary squatters who will vacate within an hour. You can't, she screeched. Dad, she's delirious. She has dementia. Gerald frowned. Bianca, what is she talking about? Why does she call this house hers? She's just a nominal owner for taxes. Bianca panicked. We pay the mortgage. We put millions into this. Nominal. Titus sneered. Lady, I saw the documents. Chloe Thorne. Sole owner. No mortgages. Clean as a baby's tear. I walked to the table, opened my folder, and placed the original property deed under Gerald Vance's nose. Read it, Gerald. You trust documents. Gerald slowly picked up the paper, put on his glasses. He read. He looked at his daughter, then back at the paper. His face grew cold. Bianca, you told us you and Mark bought this house 3 years ago. You said you took a huge loan. You asked for help with the down payment. Dad, we sent you money every month, Gerald continued, his voice gaining strength like an avalanche. 5,000. Every month. For 3 years. I stood silently. The truth was doing its own work. Where is the mortgage? Gerald roared, slamming his palm on the table. If the house was built 20 years ago and belongs to his mother, he looked at me. There is no mortgage, I said quietly, looking at Patricia. I built this house with my own money. I never asked you for a penny. I never received $1 from you. Gerald turned purple. That's $180,000. Where's that money, Bianca? Bianca, cornered, tried to counterattack. The house needed investments. Renovations. I couldn't hold back a short, dry laugh. Renovations. This plaster was applied in 2010. The tiles are vintage 2008. Not a single nail was driven with your money. You're lying. Silence. Gerald roared. He stepped toward his daughter. You stole from us. You lied to your husband. You humiliated his mother. He turned to Mark. Pack your bags, son. Are you coming with us? We have a lot to discuss. Mark nodded, looking broken but clear-eyed. I'm filing for divorce, he said, his voice firm for the first time in years. Mom, forgive me. I was blind. I nodded. I forgive you, son. But the house is sold. You have to leave. It was over in minutes. The car screeched out of the gates. Silence returned to the terrace, filled only by the sound of the sea. Beautifully done, Titus said, lighting a cigar. Money's sent. When do you hand over the keys? I walked to the railing. The sun was setting, painting the water molten gold. This view was my life. I couldn't give it up. Not like this. Mr. Banks, I turned. How about we rewrite the ending? He raised an eyebrow. My interest. A return of the full amount, plus 10% on top for your trouble. The house stays mine. Titus laughed thunderously. Iron Lady. I knew right away you weren't selling. He reached into his jacket, pulled out our contract, and tore it in half. I saw you were cornered. I decided to play along. I didn't like your daughter-in-law from the jump. He extended his hand. Transfer the penalty fee. Business is business. But the house is yours. We shook. The deal was voided. The house was mine again. Later, as I drank cognac with Desmond and Titus, my phone rang. Mark. Chaos. Gerald had kicked Bianca out on the highway. Patricia was unwell. He was at a police station, filing a fraud report. Can I come to you? He asked, pitifully. No, Mark, I said gently but firmly. My house is under quarantine from other people's problems. You are 35. Get a hotel. Figure out your life yourself. Only then will you become a man. Call me in a month. I hung up. The emptiness inside was clean ringing. The next morning, as I packed for Rome, Titus appeared at my gate with a basket of white roses and a proposal. He would rent Indigo Point for the summer, good money, and he'd keep my roses alive and unwanted guests away. It was perfect. An hour later, I was in a taxi to the airport. My phone pinged. A final message from Mark. I filed the report. It's bad. I rented a room. Looking for a job. Forgive me. I'll handle it. I typed back. I believe in you. See you in a month. Love you. I blocked Bianca's number. Forever. I leaned back, inhaling the smell of leather, looking at the road ahead. The airport. Rome. A life that belonged only to me. I closed my eyes and heard, for the first time in years, not the noise of others' demands, but the music of my own soul. The silence was magnificent. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.